just to make this immediately clear, no real names will be given out in this video. Not even my own. If anyone was watching that is mentioned in this video, you're thinking, why is he using a screen recorder on Instagram? Or, I know his voice, I know who he is. He's defaming our character, and he is fired and or going to be sued for defamation of character. It's not really defamation of character, these are the facts, and I've never mentioned my job, my current job, on this channel. My only channel. I don't think really ever. The only times would have been just, oh, I got a job, and just, oh, work has been blah blah blah. Just minor talk to an audience of literally no one. Yeah, one of my videos has 200,000 views, but that was just a video about Spider-Man. Long before I worked here. I'm not going to mention the company either. But what has happened was that there's no really any way to avoid mentioning the company, like the type of work we do. So I'm just going to come out and say it. I am a traffic warden. Sorry about that, I had to make a few calls. So, I got this job in May. I'm filming this in October. And I did 3 days of training, and I was trained by a woman that we'll call Martha. The way that traffic wardens work is that there are two different types. You have ones in redcoats who they do most of the work, just walking around town, ticketing people who have done something wrong. Whereas the bluecoats are exclusive to car parks that you need to pay for. I'm a bluecoat, and I was trained with mostly redcoats, but there were a couple of bluecoats there being trained with me. And something that I was told in training is that if someone doesn't have a ticket, you need to put a timer on for 5 minutes, and you cannot give them a ticket until 5 minutes after you've observed them, is the terminology that they use. And another thing I was told was that if someone has a ticket that expires at, say, 1, you cannot ticket them until 10 past 1. You need to wait 10 minutes, like 10 minutes after the ticket has expired. If you notice it at 2, that's fine, you can ticket it instantly. The last thing I was told, well, I was told other things, but these are the really important ones for what I'm about to explain in this video. If a car has 2 full wheels out of the bay, that is a ticket. If they have 1 full wheel, or if they're only, say, 1 inch out of bay, you cannot ticket them. That is not... That's not correct. And if the rules are being followed, that ticket is cancelled. The person that you ticket does not need to pay the fine. These are just some important facts that you need to understand for what just happened. And I'm recording this literally just after it happened. I have 2 bosses. I have a team leader, and then there's just the head of the entire department. There was a team leader that we'll call Dylan. He was the team leader from when I started until the end of July, and he didn't have many interactions with me. But then he retired, and a new guy came in that we're going to call Shane. And I've had a couple interactions with Shane since, the start of August. And only one of them has been not positive, but it's just not negative. Everything else has been negative. He phoned me one random day and said I am not getting enough tickets. I work in a town that there's 10 car parks. There's, I don't know how many spaces, but it's not a lot. It's probably about 500 at most. And I'd say that's probably pushing it. So we'll say 250. 250 spaces, 250 cars can park at one time in this town. But that's not that there's 250 people I can ticket. Because obviously not all the spaces are taken at the same time. In fact, most of the time, there are quite a few. It's like half empty in the majority of them. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not getting many tickets. I'm getting maybe 4 a day at a push, whereas people in other places are getting like 20 a day easily. But the thing is that they work longer shifts. I only work a 4-hour shift because a 4-hour shift was all that was given to me. And they just work in areas where there's more people getting cocky. Like, if Shane is watching this, he will say that is a reach. That I don't know that factually, but just because I don't know it factually doesn't mean that it's a bit of a reach. Like, it's just, you know, it's one of those things where you don't need to know factually to know that it's true. Like, this is going to sound random, but it's just an example, and I just need to give examples. I need people to understand what I mean, even when this isn't serious. Jimmy Carter turned 100 a couple of days ago, former president of America. He's not dead, but we know he'll be dead soon because, 100, not many people get to that age. But anyway, I'm going to be honest, I'm a very lazy person, but I don't slack off on work. Despite the fact that that I work in a small town, I drive between all the car parks, which I would have thought that, someone would have said something, but then I would have just said that, efficiency is being increased because I'm not using as much energy. I'm not taking as long getting between the car parks because, obviously driving is faster than walking. Stuff like that. But what happened today was I was in one of the car parks, and this car park is in 4 separate rows. You have one on the top, you have one on the left side, you have one in the middle, and you have one on the bottom, if you're looking at it from the entrance. I parked at the top side of the car park. And then, I went through the top side. One person did something wrong. I gave them a ticket after waiting 5 minutes. And just for clarification, when I put an observation on, I continue to patrol. I didn't this time because a guy went up with me and he was asking me about blue badges, the disabled badges, which, as far as I know, that I'm allowed to do that. I'm allowed to stop and talk to people as long as it's sort of relevant to my job, which this is. Because, with this guy has a disabled badge and he didn't know how to use it. He didn't know what's allowed and what's not allowed, and I had to explain that to him. Because that would mean that I would need to ticket him next time I see him if he was doing something wrong. Which, another very important fact I've been told by, I forget what fake name I gave her. But the girl that trained me, something else I just remembered that she said was that it's not about getting tickets. It's just about being present. Like, if I get no tickets the entire time I work here, that's fine. As long as I'm actually going between the car parks and making sure that nothing is ticketable. And I've been told that by other people who work for the same company that, you know, it's not about the amount of tickets I get, it's about the fact that I'm present. But, like, my main job is to be a deterrent to people who might possibly intentionally not pay for a ticket or just, you know, intentionally do something wrong just so they don't have to pay or something like that. So I talked to him. It took maybe 3 minutes. I then checked a couple more cars. The timer ran out for that car I was going to go ticket. I went and ticketed it. I then looked at the middle row. There was nothing there, I think, that I could ticket. I then looked at the row on the left. There was a car at the very top of that row, and it was a van. And this might seem a bit sidetracked, but it is really, really important information, because I do genuinely think that if these guys screw around any more than they already have, it will cost me my job, and possibly I could get my ass kicked. Depending on if these guys are violent. I don't know if they are, because I haven't met them. But it is inevitable that I will, if I continue working here. Big if. In this car park, there's this big gate. And when I started working, the gate was never open. And no one went anywhere near it. So I assumed that it led into some sort of abandoned, like, factory or something. But it turns out that it's not abandoned, it is being used. And what the people that work in there have a tendency to do is to park right in front of the gate, which, that's out of bay. And on top of that, the people on the top, like the left-hand side of the top row, they cannot get out. It is almost impossible for them to get out if someone parks in front of that gate. And these guys drive big trucks. They don't drive, like, you know, regular cars. But I noticed this van at 1:22, and the ticket expired at 1:30. And what you do in that situation is that you would put on a timer for 18 minutes. Now, I don't know if you're allowed to do that. Like, I don't know what the maximum you're allowed to observe something for is. I asked. I didn't get an answer, which I'll get into later. So I put on the timer for 18 minutes. I looked at the rest of the left row. There was one person, one other car, that had done something wrong. So I put an observation on for them. And finished with the left row. I went to the bathroom, because there's a bathroom right next to that car park. And then I did the bottom row. And by the time I was done with the bottom row, that car, not the van, the car that I put the timer on for, the timer had expired. So I went and put a ticket on their car. I think, I can't really remember. Either I put the ticket on, or the driver came back, which means in that case you cancel the ticket. And then the van had maybe another 10 minutes left at that point. So I had no more cars to check, because, you know, the majority of the spaces were taken. There were maybe only 5 left at a push. And even if anyone came in, I can't do anything about them for another 5 minutes. Excuse me. So that's why I don't bother. So what I did was I sat in my car for the rest of that timer, which, I get that sounds bad. I get it sounds like I am being, I think there's an official word for it, but I don't know what it is. But just, you know, I get that is lazy, but there's nothing else for me to really do. I mean, I could just stand around and walk around and just be at the turn, but, like, there's nothing to be a deterrent to at that point, because I've already been a deterrent to everything there. Anyway, after the 10 minutes were up, I went to go put a ticket on my car. But I noticed someone walk out the gate, and I just stood still. I wanted to hide, but I didn't want to look suspicious. I waited for him to pass by, and then I sort of snuck over to the van, and I was about to put a ticket on the van, but the guy said, "Hey, I'm just about to change that ticket out." He's like, "Here." And then I seen it, the ticket expires tomorrow, so I can't do anything about that van until tomorrow at the earliest, unless he renews the ticket again. So I said, that's fine. I'll cancel the ticket. I took a photo of the ticket, the old one that just expired, which I'm so glad I did that because of what happens later. So I went back to my car, I got in, and I moved on to the next car park. And here's the point where I do shit myself in the foot. I thought, there's only 20 minutes left of my shift, and yeah, this car park does take 20 minutes to patrol, but screw it. I'll just sit in the car and just wait until my shift end. And after, I don't know how long, a guy came up to me, and I noticed him. I was like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, can you come with me?" And it was at that point that I noticed that he was wearing a jacket with the company logo on it. I was like, "So can you come in my car?" Which, I get that sounds creepy as hell. And I did want to mention how creepy that is, but I didn't. He parked in a place that it was hard to get into the front passenger side, but he still asked me to do it anyway. And I tried, and I actually stabbed myself because there's just behind where he parked, there's like big bushes with jagged edges and stuff like that. But I got in, and he said, "I've been looking to talk to you. Why were you just sitting in your car doing nothing?" And I'll admit, I made up a lie. I said I was waiting on a call from my doctor. But then he basically just started repeating himself. He's like, but you can't do that. You can't just sit in the car. You can't do that. I was like, yeah, but I was waiting on a call from my doctor. But you can't do that. And I was like, hey, hold on. I'm just going to go out of my car and grab something. I'll be right back. Went into the car. I grabbed both my phones. The phone that I'm recording this on and a phone that was provided to me by the company. What the plan was I was going to record this meeting because I knew the meeting was coming. I was going to record the meeting on one phone and be on the phone with my mum on the other, just so that she can chime in and be like, that you're wrong, basically. So I phoned her and I said, are you free? Because she's also working right now. And she said no. So I said, okay, phone me when you're free. Hung up. But not long later, she phoned back and I said, right, can you explain to her what you've just explained to me? And he said, I don't have to. But, I mean, the reason why I did that is because that's basically just what I've been taught to do my entire life. If anything goes wrong and there's an authority figure of any kind, such as a teacher who is just being... just talking crap, really. Because that's really what it was. I'm not exaggerating, I'm not making stuff up, I'm not pushing the truth, that is what it was. I've been taught by my mum to either have them phone her, or I phone her myself, and she can sort out. And also, because of the school I went to, I am used to being talked crap about by authority figures. Which, I have videos on those. Just, they are a lot longer than this one will be. So I did hang up. and I didn't record a video. I mean, I'm recording this one now, but what I mean is I didn't record a video at the time. And he said, look, I want to go through these two things with you. And, this piece of paper. And what the piece of paper said was that, one, I'm not getting enough tickets. And two, I am what he called ghost logging. Which is I allegedly logging into a car park and just sitting in the car. Not getting out, not patrolling, anything like that. Like I just did. But what I just did is, I don't do that. I do actually get out and patrol. But because he saw me do it once, he perceived that as I do that literally every single day, all the time. And Shane, if you're watching this and you're going to say, like, but I didn't say that. Yes, you did. I tried to explain to you about what happened with the grey van, and you said, but how? I got free tickets today, right? And I tried explaining the free tickets to him. He said, but how are you getting tickets if you're sitting in the car? Because I'm not sitting in the car. We're supposed to take photos of the tickets just so that we're backed up, like, so that my bosses and all can see I'm not making a mistake when I'm putting on a ticket. And I do that. I take photos. I have photographic evidence that van had a expired ticket. The ticket expired at past. I was putting the ticket on at 22, so 10 minutes later, which is what I'm supposed to do. And he's able to see that, at least when he gets back to HQ. But if it were me, if I were Shane, I would have said, look, I'm not going to be able to check to see if what you're saying is true until I get back to base. But I'll take your word for it. But no, all he basically said was, well, you're sitting in the car 24/7. He didn't say 24/7, but he did basically say, I'm doing it all the time. And I just kept on trying to explain to him, and the problem is that when I'm under pressure, I have a tendency of saying things in the wrong order. And that happened as well. Because I was saying, the girl that trained me said this, and that. And then he just twisted that and said, oh, but did you say you can sit in the car? I said, no, but I'm not talking about that. But I am. No, you weren't. You weren't mentioning that. And he let me explain basically nothing. So I'm just using this as a sort of a backup because, having done 7 years of secondary school where the teachers blamed everything on me, I am used to this sort of thing happening, and it is, it's really bad for my mental health, but the damage is done. And that damage is that I now believe that all authority figures are out to get me. So I believe that, this meeting would be just, you are fired, because we're not even going to bother letting you explain why these things are happening. All we know is that they are happening, and it's all your fault. So, what is going to happen is he's going to go back. He's going to go to he's a team leader. He's going to go to the head of the department. I know that's not his official title. I'm just going to call it that. And he's going to say, Alan. That's not my real name. That is a fake name that I've been using for about a year now. Alan was aggressive, and he wasn't listening to me, and he twisted my words. I didn't twist his words. I will admit I was aggressive, but it wasn't like I was aggressive towards him. I was just I was extremely angry because I know that my job is on the line. He said, no, but your job's not on the line. It's a review. Reviews are when people get fired. Like, I remember when my friend got fired from a different place he worked for, and I know he was saying, but that's a different company. That's not relevant. It is. because he got fired. He got fired at a review. Reviews are where people get fired. Reviews are where people get promoted. Reviews is where all that stuff happens. So he has said that from now on, no more driving between the car parks, because he has said I need to be visible. And I was about to say this to him, or ask this, but he just interrupted me and just didn't let me finish. I was going to say, I didn't know that when we were told we need to be visible, because I was told multiple times we need to be visible. I get that. What I didn't know is that we need to be visible between car parks. I thought once you're traveling, it doesn't matter. But no, apparently we do need to be visible between the car parks, so no more driving between the car parks, which I'll be very sore and stuff like that, but whatever. He also said that he's going to come back in a week, so the 10th of October. And he is going to... What he wrote down on the piece of paper was that he's going to provide additional support. He said that if he needs to, he'll do a patrol with me. But what I want to know is, if he doesn't classify it as required, like if it's not needs be, then what's he going to do? Because at that point, it's really just going to be the same thing, you know? Oh, you got 4 tickets on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and you've got 2 so far on Thursday. Well, why don't you go on patrol with me, and you can see that, literally no one is doing anything wrong. Both him and the team leader have said the head of the department said multiple times that it's absolute crap, that literally no one's doing anything wrong, but it's factual. And so it is required that he does that patrol with me, because then at least he'll see. Keep in mind this is out of order because I wasn't able to take any notes of any kind, and I'm just doing this from memory. Yeah, it just happened, but it was so... What's the word? Shocking, I guess. That I'm forgetting it a lot. Another thing he said was that he tried to visit me 2 times before. And I was aware of that because he tried to see me, we'll say a month ago. And on that day, I got into a crash. Or, well, someone crashed into me, I should say. And he phoned me at 1:30. My shift ended at 2. And he said, where are you? And I said, look, I'm sorry, but I need to go see my uncle in Bangor. And he's gonna fix my car. He said, but you can't log out early. I said, look, I know, but please, I need to do this. Like, it's my car, I can't. This was before we got the agreement of I'm walking between the car parks, but even then, I need my car because I don't live in the town that I patrol in. And if I were to walk from where I live to here, it would take too long. I don't know how long it would take, but it's not like it's a 5-minute walk, It's got to be at least 2 hours. So, car is required, I would say. Especially since there's no footpath from there to here. And then he said that was the second time he tried to see me, which I was aware of because he phoned me. But he didn't explain the first time. At least the second time he didn't. He'd explain it today. And he said the day that he tried to see me was the day that a guy that we're going to call Jacob. Jacob is what they call the quality auditor, and he saw me in one of the car parks, and he said that he's taken a look around this car park, and he can see that there is no one doing anything wrong, and he will come back to the head of the department, and he will say that the reason why my ticket count is so low is because no one's doing anything wrong. But then Shane said that, right, I asked on the second time to Shane, have you spoken to Jacob? And he said, I'm not allowed to speak to Jacob. Jacob speaks to the head of the department. And then the head of the department speaks to Shane. And he, I said today to Shane, did you speak to Jacob? Just in case. And he said, once again, no, because he can't. Well, Jacob spoke to the head, and the head spoke to Shane, and according to the head, Jacob said that I sit in the car all the time and do nothing. Which, I did kind of think would happen. Like, you have that one guy that comes in and says, look, I promise you, I'm here for your interests, and all that. Like, it's basically just HR, where they're like, yeah, we're here for you, but we're going to screw you over. And then the second thing that Jacob had said was that I didn't have my printer, because we need to print out these tickets. And I said to Shane, like, you know why I didn't have my printer? Because one of the buttons, there's two buttons. You have the button to turn on and off, and then you have a button to what they call feed it. And the feed button is very important, because when I print off a ticket, it doesn't print all the way. It only prints about 3/4 of the way, and then I need to hit the feed button until it comes out all the way. The feed button came off, and it's not the first time I did it. The first time it came off, I was just able to put it back in, and it stayed in for a long time. The second time, it just would not go back in at all. So what I said to him was that I needed to go to a shop, buy some sewing needles, and use the sewing needles to press the button. Now, when I say I needed to go to a shop, I didn't explain that it was before my shift started, like 10 minutes. 10 minutes before my shift started on that day that I happened. He then twisted my words again and said that, oh, so you admit that you run a shop buying sewing needles? Instead of doing your job, it was before my shift started. Also, it was required because I need the feed button. Because I don't know if this is a problem that only I have or if everyone else has it, but it doesn't print off all the way, and it needs to be printed off all the way. As far as I know, if it doesn't print off all the way, that ticket can be cancelled. Like, the person doesn't have to pay, which then comes back on me. Like, at this point, I had to step out of the car because I was so angry, because I knew this was going to happen. This is what has been happening my entire life, really, where something happens and I get in trouble, something that isn't my fault. And someone sees what happens and they say, look, I saw that. I know it's not your fault. I'm going to back you up. And then they either don't back me up, or they outright lie and make it seem like everything was my fault. Like, it's what happened in school. It's what I figured was going to happen at my last job. It didn't actually happen at my last job because it was a temporary contract and I wasn't there long enough for it to happen. But, I'm pretty sure if I was there long enough, it would happen. I genuinely screamed, or what? My vocal cords are like really messed up. I can't really scream, but it was somewhat close to it. Yeah. He then took that as, I'm being aggressive towards him. And yeah, I was shouting. I wasn't swearing, surprisingly. But I said, like, you need to understand why. You are threatening my job. He said, no, I'm not threatening your job. It's just a review. Which, I've already gotten into that. He brought up again, which he's brought it up a couple of times, that, other people have worked in this town and they've got a lot more tickets. Like, there's someone who works in the next town over, and she gets like 150 a month, whereas me and the only other person that works in this town, we get 30 to 40 each a month. And I said, like, I don't know for sure. I didn't ask her, but I'm pretty sure she works an 8-hour shift. It's like, I don't remember if he said either it's not relevant or she just outright doesn't work an 8-hour shift. But it still could be a 6-hour shift. I don't think it's a 4-hour shift. I'm pretty sure it's not, because I've seen her like working from 10 to 4, which that's a 6-hour shift. And then on top of that, both me and the other guy that works here, like, we both think that she doesn't follow the rules that were set out by, I still can't remember the trainer's name, the fake name I gave. Like, as I said earlier, it's Friday Bay, 2 full wheels for an expired ticket, it's 10 minutes, and for no ticket, it's 5 minutes. We think that she is giving out tickets for being out of bay when they're in Shadow Bay, and then ticketing cars that have run out instantly, or cars that never had a ticket instantly. Which, according to the other guy, Shane had said for him to start doing that. Now, Shane isn't taking anything that I've heard other people say as fact, or he's not even going to take my word for it, and just treating it as hearsay, which this isn't a court. Also, you can just do some basic fact checking, like, phone up the other guy and say, did you say to Alan that I said this? Yeah. And then he can say, like, okay, the other guy has said that he said that to you, but it's not true. Or just mask off, it is true. It's just... The reason why they're pressing down on me so hard is because the council of this town are pressing down on them, both him and the head of the department, because I'm not getting enough. But what the council don't seem to realise is that, no one's doing anything, because it's a council, let's be honest. All the councils do is sit on their ass and spend tax money on cocaine. Once again, not a outright fact, but it's just something that everyone knows. And an unspoken truth, an unspoken rule. But it's just, the council could always actually get off their ass and check and say, so the reason why no one's being ticketed is because there is no one to ticket. Which, in that case, me and the other guy would probably be made redundant, which, that's fine. Like, if they were just come in and say, look, you're being made redundant because no one's doing anything wrong, then in that case, I'd be like, okay, I understand. I'm going to find another job, but if I don't find another job in because people are going to notice that there's no traffic wardens, and they'll start to intentionally not pay again. And by that point, if I don't have a job, or if the pay for this job is better than the job I have at that point, I'll come back. That's fine, and we can just keep on making me redundant like that over and over and over again until I retire. That's fine. But no, they have to be just rude and all. So I said to him that one of the reasons is, like, look around you. Look at the bays. The bays are faded. And when a bay is faded, as in the paint has been run over, it's been like worn down because you have cars driving over it every single day, they need to be repainted. If they're even slightly scratched, technically you're not allowed to enforce an out of bay. Which I don't enforce the out of bays when they are faded, because there are a few in this town that aren't faded. And I told them, look around and see that they're not painted. And I've said that multiple times that they're not painted. I've said to Mark, and Mark said, that's what happens when you don't work off a script. I am very sorry for that. I didn't give it a second name, so hopefully it'll be fine. But the head of department, he said, look, I've spoken to the council and they're on it. The council are not on it. I asked Shane, are we allowed to speak to the council ourselves? He didn't give me a response. But I was asking that because I had a feeling the answer was no, we need to go through. Actually, you know what, he did answer, sorry. He said, he gave a half answer. Instead of outright saying yes or no, he said, you're supposed to go through the head of department. Which I did. Multiple times, and he said it's with the council. But just to double check, I phoned up the council myself a while back, and I said, what's up with the base? Are they going to repaint it? And they said, we're going to do it on a basis of which ones need it the most. Which, I don't work for a council, but as far as I know, really the way that it should work is just you phone up some contractors, whatever, and say, look, I need you to go here, here, and here. These bays need repainted. You don't need to get someone to go out and look at all of them and say, look, this one, this one's the most faded, so we'll do this one first instead of doing it all at the same time. And I did explain that to the head of the department without outright saying that I phoned the council, and he said, yeah, but the councils have budgets, like they need to spend a certain amount of money on different areas, but I mean, what are the other areas? Because, plenty of potholes are not being fixed. They are shutting down the roads, but they're shutting them down for seemingly nothing. There's one near my town where they put up temporary traffic lights, and there's no one working. And it's like just a foot on each side of the road that is blocked off. Like, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with that bit of the road, and there's no one working there. So why are they there? Why have they spent however much money just to do that? So, yeah, I tried to say to Shane, these bays are not painted, so I can't do out of bays. And he said, that I and the other guy are obsessed with out of bays. There was a week where we were getting exclusively out of bays. No, that is not true at all. No fucking way, excuse my language. The only tickets we get are people who didn't pay for a ticket. We call that a code 83. And all I got today was code 83s. All I got yesterday was code 83s. 90% of what I get is code 83s. And That's another thing. He said that I'm not getting enough. He said it a couple of times, I'm not getting enough range of tickets. When you're a red coat, there's about 90 different reasons you can give out a ticket. When you're a blue coat, there's maybe 8. And some of those don't apply to this town. Like, there's ones for not using a charger when you're in an electric charging bay. We don't have electric charging bays in this town. There's one for... It's a code 80. And I think what it says is paid after the maximum amount of time you're allowed to stay. And I asked him, what is this? Does this even apply to redcoats? Yes. Does this apply to Ards? Yes. And he said that it's basically just a code 82. And what a code 82 is, expired ticket. So there's 2 different codes for the same thing, for some reason. I'm just going to keep using code 82 because other than lack of range, they haven't said anything. So I know I'm not screwing that up. Another one is wrong class of vehicle in a bay. So I'm assuming that in other towns you have like motorcycle bays and like big truck bays and stuff like that. We don't have that here. All we have here is just bays. And they're all the same size, bar the disabled bays. I think the only things we can enforce here are no ticket, expired ticket, being in a disabled bay with no disabled badge, and out of bay. But we can't enforce out of bays because the roads aren't painted. I think that's all I have to say. I'm sorry for the language, I'm sorry for the yap, and I'm sorry for accidentally saying someone's first name. But the whole point of this video is just to cover my ass, because if you watch this, even part of it, you're at least hearing what I have to say instead of outright just shutting me down, because that is exactly what you did, Shane. You said, oh, but this isn't relevant, that isn't relevant. It doesn't matter what the girl that trained you said, even though she trained me. And it's not like she's just a nobody in the company. She is high up. In fact, I think she's higher up than the head of the department. I'm pretty sure. She works in HQ, and she trains most people, like 50% of the people who work for the company. So, to say that... Okay, right, he didn't say that she's not, like, reliable or telling the truth or anything like that, but he... Basically, anytime I mentioned her name, he just immediately shut down the point I had to say. Oh, and one last thing. I said before, a while back, that we have handhelds that we use to write the tickets. The handhelds are basically just phones. And we were never trained on the handhelds by her. Sorry, I still don't remember the fake name I gave. We were never trained like that. All the training I got for how to use the handhelds was from the other guy, but they don't trust the other guy because he is in a similar situation because, he works in the same town as me. So, I said, all the training I got was from her and this guy. And as soon as I said his name, he was like, what, that guy? Either he didn't make the point of the why that's a shock, or he did and I just don't remember it. So, the TLDR of this is, I can guarantee I'm going to be fired within the next week. And, they'll say, oh no, but we're not going to fire you. Just do the right thing. I'm doing the right thing. No, you're not. And because you're not doing the right thing, you're fired. And it is a shame because this is a really good job. The hours are good and the pay is good. And the only problem with the job that I have, I mean, there are other dangers, like I could be assaulted, but that hasn't happened yet. So really, the only trouble I have with the job is just the fact that my bosses just will not let me work in peace. Like they just, I mean, it's not all the time, it's not every day, but it's just it. They do constantly phone me up and say, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you're not getting enough tickets, you're not getting enough range of tickets, stuff like that. I'm glad that I have this like on record now that I'm saying I will be fired within the next week. Because when it happens, no one can say that, I was wrong about it because, and it's not that I'm looking to be right about it. Like, I am looking for it to be like, oh, Dylan, just use my real name. Well, Alan, we're sorry that we said all this about you. No, it turns out you're right. You can't enforce this, and that. So, you're not fired, and good job.